And we're back. Today I got asked about what is an awakening, and how do I know when I'm having one? And I was like, well, you're gonna know if you're having an awakening. But I'm gonna go through sort of the stages and steps that go through when you're having an awakening, and when when the shock ends, the realization begins, and taking control of your actions starts. And that whole thing is considered an awakening. An awakening can last for years. I know people that know what's going on in their life. They know what they're doing and have literally said, I can't deal with this. And they've had a pseudo awakening or backpedaled and just chose to be oblivious and to not take control. These are extremely toxic people. I have one in my life. These people will go after you for the energy that they want. They'll try to get the rise out of you that they're looking for. And it's not good energy. It's fear. It's paranoia. Anger. There are people in the community that will nitpick at you and poke and poke and poke until you're bleeding, and then you come after them and they're like, sometimes they don't even know what to do. They're shocked. And some actually like to play on the argument afterwards. When you've got this sniping going on between two people and it's yak, 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 and it's like, do you even realize what you're doing? That you're creating a negative situation just to feed on it? It's not even as good as doing it on purpose. The capacity that you get from doing this unconsciously is nowhere near the reward of doing it on purpose and with positivity. But before we get into that, the first things that you realize when you're having an awakening, and everybody's symptoms are different, but they all sort of link together. People can experience extreme migraines. It depends on the type of feeder you are. Some people start to witness psychic activity. Some people start to witness psychic activity. They start to see things, or they start to feel things, or they have dreams. Sanguinarians will start to have blood dreams, night sweats, fevers, rage from out of nowhere, emotions from out of nowhere. For me, and this was long before I really started to awaken, because this happened in my freshman year, and I didn't fully awaken as saying until probably 18. And I mean, that's nearly 3 to 4 years. And still, I was a freshman, and I'm sitting in this class, and I'm looking at the floor, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and all of a sudden, I think about one of my friends, and I'm thinking about how pissed I am at this person, and just wanting to be so angry at this person, and then wanting to beat up the floor. Being angry at the floor, being angry at this person, and then I made the connection. I took a deep inhale and went, you know what? I wonder if there's DNA on the floor right now. And I asked him later, I got up the courage to look for the validation, and I said, have you ever taken Mr. Cohn's class? And he went, yeah. And I was like, have you ever bled in that classroom? And he was like, yeah. I walked in and someone punched me right in the face, and I walked right back out. And it was kind of funny because he's like, I walked right in and somebody bashed me in the face, and I walked right back out. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, yeah, I'll bet you I bled on the floor there a little, right at the entrance. And I'm like, that was right where I wanted to eat the carpet. And then I was like, wow. And I was like, wait a minute. I was like, when was this? And he was like, 2 or 3 years ago before you got here. 2 or 3 years ago before I got there? Pardon me, but holy shit. That's huge. I mean, residue DNA at that level. I mean, obviously, I clearly have a psychic connection to this person. But to recognize it on a DNA level is very saying. And I mean, even though I knew this and I went to go validate it and fact check on it, I still swept this under the rug. Not proud. Not proud. It had to get much more serious for that, for me, in order for me to realize what was really going on and not push it away and push it away. A good example of a psychic vampire that hasn't awakened is my father. He'll kick himself every single time. He never listens to his inner intuition. And he's the kind of person that will intimidate you and bully you and really make you, I mean, you will quake in the stomach from this man's voice that he projects just to get a rise out of you. And he doesn't just do it to me. He doesn't just do it to family members, but he'll do it to anyone. He'll get irritated and want to go call Comcast just to be rude and get that rise, that fix that he's looking for. I knew a woman that literally couldn't go 5 minutes without making a mistake in her life, nearly a nymphomaniac. And I mean, she knew what she was doing. I said, you do realize what you're doing. You do know. Like, how long have we been friends? 17 years? And you're still not taking responsibility for this. You know, for me, when I was starting my psychic awakening came first, I was an extremely sickly person. I was taking allergy shots. I was sick every 2 weeks. I repeated the 2nd grade because I wasn't there long enough. I mean, I had shingles like 3 times before the age of 18. I was an extremely active person as well, and I still had physical issues that made me incredibly fatigued all the time. I was dealing with fatigue. I mean, not to mention I was extremely anemic from day one of birth. I'm anemic to this day. I'm always anemic. I'm lucky I have hair. So these are just some of the symptoms that I went through. I can only imagine what other people have gone through. Extreme headaches, visual migraines. I know some people that developed seizures. I know people that have had chronic illness. Michelle Ballinger even mentions that when she did her feeding test, she said, okay, I'm going to stop feeding. I'm going to, prove this. And eventually her doctor said, you're going to need an organ transplant if you keep going the road you're going on. She went, okay, that's not happening. Case solved. Everybody goes through that. Everybody says, okay, and they announce it. They're like, I'm testing this. And we're just like, good luck. We'll see you, 2 weeks later when you can't get out of bed. For me, not feeding causes physical and psychological problems. I get very paranoid about people. All those things that you feel when your gas tank is low and you're starting to feel not good. You're starting to feel snippy at people. You want to go after people. You want to cry. You want to eat. All the signs of PMS that women get. I mean, you're a vampire and you're not feeding. This is what will happen to you. People are like, are you on the rag? And people are like, shut up. All these things is what signifies an awakening. When you start to realize and test what is going on. You've been to the doctor. They've given you everything. I did allergy shots for 4 years. And for about a decade, I would say I was fine. But you notice I'm back to having asthmatic problems. Do I have a donor? No. and mine are actually quite significant, my asthmatic problems. I keep it under control verbally very well, but most people can't see the difference. As I said before, an awakening can be multiple years. When I awakened as psychic, it was years later that I awakened as saying, and really, I heard it once described as lighting one candle after another, is that awakening never really stops. It's knowledge you're gaining, and you're branching out. You can see more and more of the road in front of you the more candles you light. The road doesn't end. Some people feel in the community that once they're awakened, they can stop, that there's nothing else left. A lot of sayings have this way of thinking, and they're extremely grounded people. Some I know that I've come in contact with are atheists. They have absolutely no faith whatsoever. And I think that's a shame. They don't think about where it comes from. They don't think about their actions. They don't self-scrutinize. They don't evaluate themselves and what they're doing. I find that to be a shame. They don't realize their potential. They stop when they realize blood makes me feel better. I'm a good noodle when I drink blood. I feel better. Like, that's it for you? You don't stop and wonder where that comes from? No? Okay. I've dealt with a couple of sayings intimately, and eventually they do understand that it's the energy in the blood that they're looking for. And I find that some do actually have some skill in energy work. So I feel like everybody has the potential for certain skills. Everyone in the world. And there are just some people that go through their awakening and their skills are, they're born in the on position. I feel like there are exercises that everyone can do to work on that part of themselves. Hindsight is 20/20. Go with your gut. And it's hard. It's hard to feel that gut instinct and then to second guess yourself. That's where my mother and I differ, is that she will second guess herself and I will react with my first gut instinct as quickly as I possibly can to avoid the second guessing. She will stop and think about it. Don't stop and think about it, just choose. Understand that you're about to make a decision, weigh the possibility of your decision, and do it. A, B, C, D, E, F. Go right through the alphabet. Don't jump around. Don't go from A to Z. Go through the alphabet one step at a time. And that's for any decisions you make. I mean, psychologically, that's, always waiting 24 hours before making a decision. But when it comes to being psychic, if you see a fork in your road and you're like, left or right, commit quickly. Don't second guess yourself, because when you second guess, you will choose wrong, and it's not going to turn out the way you wanted it to. And that's in a nutshell like what psychic training is. To trust your gut instinct and to learn what that feels like. I think that's all I can really say about an awakening. I've mentioned awakened, pseudo-awakenings, unawakened, and the dangers. I feel like that's what gives the community a really bad rap, is that you have people that are extremely toxic, that are only through the 10% of their awakening. They're not really realizing that there's more to it. And then people who are never going to awaken, that they are literally asleep at the wheel their entire lives. I've heard people say, I had a natural gift and I shut it down because it scared me. And I'm like, well, it's all scary in the beginning. I mean, it's always scary. But to shut it down permanently and not use it, you might as well take out an eye. And then, it's like having one of those creepy clowns in your house and going, I can't see you, so you can't see me. I mean, no, don't do that. That's, you shutting your own eyes to the world does not save you. It just saves you visually, and then you wonder why things happen, and then you ignore them still. It's not helpful. Don't do it. Be brave. You were meant to be put on this planet for a reason. We all have a bucket list when we get here. Things we all have to do in this lifetime, and if we don't, we have to repeat it. It's kind of like jail time. Anyway, if I've forgotten anything, list it down in the comments below. And hopefully you will all have a good night. Sleep tight.